Good afternoon. So we're here at the Transplant Games 2024 in Birmingham, Alabama, and we're here with Denise.
Yes.
And Denise is visiting us from the San Francisco Bay Area.
I am.
And Denise, would you like to share your story with everyone else and with us?
Absolutely. I'm a heart transplant recipient. I received my new heart 6.5 years ago and had a not great adventure to and through transplant. It was really rough. I had 3 open heart surgeries in the span of a week. I had both types of rejection and an infection. And I tell that story a lot, not to make people feel scared about transplant, but to say that you can have all of that happen and still run a 5K 6 months after you get out of the hospital. You can still lead a really healthy life, even if you have complications after your transplant.
Perfect. And how many years have passed since you're as a recipient?
6.5 years ago.
Congratulations on that. Now, is this your first time attending the games?
No, I was in San Diego in 2022.
Okay. So I come across many patients or recipients that they have multiple attendance and they're still planning for future ones as well. So that's, amazing to hear.
I love the Transplant Games. I think it's a great opportunity, especially for pediatric patients, but really for all of us to see a group of people that are just like them. We don't get to see that very often in our day-to-day life. We're usually the person that stands out in the crowd as a recipient, and here we're just one of the crowd.
Yeah. And since receiving a transplant, how has that changed the world for you in moving forward?
In a lot of ways. I mean, personally, it's made me a little more fearless. I used to be really shy, and now I'm really not. I care more about people and less about things. And I'm really dedicated to giving back. I want to change the issues that I see in this community, and that's why we started a nonprofit in Northern California.
And can you share with us a little bit more about that passion that you have with that nonprofit in the Bay Area?
Sure. Our nonprofit is called Heartfelt Health Foundation, and we are Northern California based in Northern California serving, and we help heart transplant patients in specific, and hopefully soon more solid organ transplant recipients with their immediate post-transplant housing costs. Those aren't covered by insurance, and in the Bay Area, paying for that out of pocket can mean the choice between putting food on the table or making your rent payment at home and paying for these costs. And that can be financially devastating for families. Families have had to declare bankruptcy. They've lost jobs. It's very complicated, and it's very hard for these families going in. Financial equity is a huge piece of the transplant puzzle, and we're trying to solve that problem.
That's amazing. How do you share awareness about your group and what you're doing?
We do things like this. We talk a lot. It's a very little known, unless you've experienced it, it's very little known even among transplant recipients, because if you've gone into this fairly financially stable, you don't understand how hard it is for someone who has given up a job to be a caregiver, and their only source of income is state-provided income, and then they're asked to come up with an additional $7,000 to $10,000 to pay for post-transplant housing. And for some people, that's going to be the equivalent of asking them to come up with $100,000. It would be just as impossible. I would hazard to guess that most of us would be hard-pressed to come up with an additional $5,000 to $7,000 a month without it hurting us financially. And patients that are already low income coming into this shouldn't be penalized because they've been sacrificing so much to care for their loved one going into transplant.
I completely agree. And if anyone is interested in being able to fundraise for you, how can they go about doing that?
Well, we would love to have people reach out to us. We are Heartfelt Health Foundation, so we're heartfelthealthfoundation.com. We're on social media as Heartfelt Health Foundation, and so we're pretty easy to find.
That's great. And are you on Facebook, Instagram, pretty much everything?
YouTube, Facebook, great. Instagram, a little bit on Twitter. I think I'm still going to call it Twitter, and a little bit there, and LinkedIn.
That's amazing. And do you feel that your experience has broadened your sense of like what patients need out there, and just what you do and what how you live your life day to day?
Absolutely. It's allowed me to live my life with a lot more gratitude, and because you don't realize how privileged you are, I think, until you start seeing people who are walking the same path as you with a lot less in their favor, and a lot fewer things going for them, that are fighting just as hard as you are to stay alive and to thrive post-transplant, but just don't have the advantages that you had going into it. I'm a lot more sensitive to people, and I think I see people a lot better now, and I hope that just, running the nonprofit, I hope that that's a result of transplant and really realizing how precious and short and a gift this life is.
I 100% agree. And in terms of support, do you guys provide pre-transplant support, post-transplant support? Where's the main area that you guys like to really support?
Post-transplant support is our main focus. We would like to, with the right kind of funding, we would love to be able to provide pre-transplant support for families that have to move to the Bay Area for transplant. People come from all over the country to get their transplant in the Bay Area. And we would like to be able to support them also when they come back for overnight stays, for follow-up checkups and that kind of thing.
That's amazing. So financial support's a huge issue that a lot of transplants face. What other issues do you feel are a huge issue in terms of the transplant community that you see?
I think equity as a whole, if you look at something like a pie, I like pie. We all
I like pie too.
If you look at transplant as a pie, and the whole equity part of it as a pie, we are starting to address, and I think it's huge, and I love it, that we're starting to address the racial inequity portion of transplant. That is a huge piece of that pie, 3/4 of the piece. But until we talk about the financial equity part of that too, we're not enjoying the whole pie. We're not solving the problem that comes with that.
Agree. And that can cause, issues in other areas too, like mental health. That's huge when we don't have enough finances to cover
The stress that comes along with trying to keep.
Yes.
I'm going to use an example of one of the families that we worked with, who is a 2-year-old little girl. She received her heart transplant when she was 18 months old. Her mom has literally, she gave up a job. She gave up her post studies. She was going to become a nurse. She had to give all of that up because she had to move into the hospital with her daughter for 341 days prior to transplant.
It's just heartbreaking, yeah.
She was not able to work. She's still not able to work. Her daughter had multiple strokes after her transplant. So her full-time job is therapy for her daughter. So we would love to be able to partner with these families who just are handicapped by taking care of their family members going through this from beginning to end, to be able to help them along the way so that their child can thrive, so that they can thrive.
I think that's amazing. The whole caregiver aspect is such a huge component that sometimes we forget. What kind of support would you say would be helpful for caregivers, just in terms of mental health or just anything surrounding the transplant community? Because it doesn't matter what age the patient is. That's huge. Caregivers play such a big role. Without them, we wouldn't be here today,
Oh, absolutely. Caregivers are lifesavers. My husband was my caregiver after my heart transplant, and he was a miracle worker. He is the reason that I survived my transplant. Doctors and nurses were great. Actually, would be husband and nurses, doctors. But caregivers, I think, when I talk to a caregiver, the first question I ask is, what are you doing for you? Take a break, go get a massage, go get your nails done, go out and have a cup of coffee by yourself if that's all you can do, but take a minute for yourself. You have to take some time to just breathe and be out of the general hospital environment.
I think so. I always like to go back to that analogy, is like, if you don't fill your own basket, you can't fill anybody else's, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And
It's
the
huge.
burnout that I see is with caregivers that just are not taking that time to breathe. And it doesn't take much to recharge a little bit. Sometimes it's just sitting at a Starbucks and having a iced latte and just calling a friend and doing something that feels normal. I sent a picture of my tomato garden to one of the moms who's currently inpatient with her 2-year-old son, and she said it was the best thing she got all day because it was normal. It just felt normal to her.
Yeah.
You have to find what feels normal to you.
Yeah, I love that. And just, did you participate in any sports while you were out here besides just the 5K?
I last or 2 years ago in San Diego, I did the 5K. This
Okay.
year, I'm playing pickleball. It should be.
Oh,
it should
that's going to be
fun.
really fun. It's going to be really fun. We'll have to come catch you playing there.
It will be very interesting. I just started playing, so
Oh, yeah. I actually just started playing too, but I'm not competing. But it'll be, yeah, you'll do great. You'll do great.
it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
It's all about having fun out there.
Exactly.
So just on a last note, if anybody else is interested in being in Transplant Games, if they haven't heard about this, what would you encourage them, or how would you encourage them to participate? And then 2 years from now.
Come. I came 2 years ago. I am the least competitive, least sporty person. I don't care about winning. I'd rather chat. And I almost didn't come 2 years ago because I thought, well, this is just for people who are athletes, using my air quotes, athletes. And that's not me. I'm not an athlete. I like doing what I like to do. I like hiking. I like doing my things, but I don't compete well. I'm not super competitive. And so I thought this isn't for me. But I'm telling you, it's for you. If you are thinking about coming to the Transplant Games and you think, well, I'm not a sporty person, come anyway. Come and be part of this community that understands implicitly, without having to say anything, what you're going through, what you've been through. Whether you're a caregiver, a donor family, a recipient like me, come anyway. And you'll find something. You may end up finding something to do that floats your boat that you really like to do.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And even if you don't, it's still fun.
It is. You're right. It totally is. I mean, we're here and we're having a blast.
It's great. It's great. It's great to be with people who you're not the only one in your group.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the similarity factor of being around other caregivers, other recipients, other families that have donated, and things like that. It's just an amazing area to be here.
Absolutely. So please come to the Transplant Games. You won't regret it.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the transplant, or just with the public, about you in general, or Transplant Games, or anything you'd like to share on the last note with everyone?
I would just encourage people. I think if you are a pediatric patient, I think you are I would almost encourage your parents to bring you more, because the kids'
cute.
faces, when they see that they're not the only ones, are priceless. It makes me tear up because they get so excited that they're a recipient. I had 3 little tiny children walk up to me and go, "Did you get a transplant?" And I did too. And they're so excited. And that's so cool.
That's just heartwarming.
It really is. It really is, because they don't see anyone like them except at clinic or in the hospital. They don't see anybody like them out and about in the wild.
That's very true. Well, thank you so much. We enjoyed having you and talking with us today.
Thank you.